Good morning and welcome to Making Sense of It. I am Mona Duncan, your moderator, and this program is our gift to you from the Glasser Institute for Choice Theory. Each week we have a member of the faculty to come on and make a presentation about one of Dr. Glasser's many concepts of how to live life more effectively and develop healthy relationships and have our needs fulfilled. And today's speaker is Sue Tomaszewski, and she is going to be talking about relationships. And Dr. Glasser has said that relationship and that love and belonging need that we have is the most important. And she's going to delve into really. So, but before I turn it over to Sue, I like to let you know that this program, after those of you that are here live, after Sue has made her presentation and I say goodbye to everyone and I stop the recording, then we welcome you to ask questions or make comments. So while Sue is giving her presentation, if you'd maybe take some notes, that whenever it's over with, you could ask her a question about it or make a comment regarding that. So thank you for being here. And Sue, are you ready to take us deeper?
I'm ready to rock and roll. Yep.
Okay, good deal. Okay, welcome. So,
all righty then.
You going to share with us?
I am. There we are.
Go for it.
Okay. Let me put that up top. Here we go. Okay. All right. So what I'm really questioning today is it really, in a sense, put a just in there. Is it really just about relationships? And this is a struggle for me. And you got to know that I've just been questioning it. And part of it is, if you're familiar with Dr. Glasser's needs, my highest need is not love and belonging. So because my highest need is not love and belonging, I always scratch my head and go, is it really just about relationships? I'm not really sure, especially since I have a really high freedom need. So this is a personal reflection, and it's just some questioning going on. So see what you think. So I'm going to ask us to explore some questions today. So the questions that I'm considering are, well, what do we really mean by relationship? What is it? How do we define it? And what qualifies as a good relationship? So just out of curiosity, if I asked you to raise your hands and say, how many of us have ever been in a relationship that we don't think has been quite as good as it might have been? Anybody who can say that? Anybody who can say, I think there's a relationship I probably needed to have gotten rid of. And maybe you haven't, but yet on the other hand, maybe you have. All right. And I'm really asking, are we better off without some types of relationships? Like, are there some relationships that just you're in it and you just go, well, I don't think so. And then for those of us whose needs profile highlight other needs besides love and belonging, our relationship still as important as for other people. So here's really my questions and really what I'm saying to us. Like, here's my challenge. I'm challenging if love and belonging is the most important need. Is it really? And is it so for everybody? If the main emphasis is really just about relationships, is it our main emphasis? And if relationships are our main emphasis, what might we be de-emphasizing or being seen as less important? I'm wondering, bottom line, if we might have just oversimplified this. So here's some dictionary definitions. So when I just looked it up in Webster's, etc., we really say it's a particular type of connection existing between people related to or having dealings with each other. It's the way in which two or more concepts are connected or the state of being connected. So it is interesting because in some people's work, when they talk about our basic needs, instead of calling it love and belonging, they call it connections. And then the factor state of having something in common. Now that really just rings for me, because when we talk about having something in common, if you think about the word communication comes from the word common. If you also think, I just was listening to something on NPR and it was music teachers who were talking about the struggles that they're having in schools, and that the music teachers were saying, Well, now I'm spending much more time because I have to listen to the same piece 28 times as opposed to listen to them together. But yet on the other hand, what they're also saying is when they started interviewing kids and when they further interviewed teachers, they said it was really a loss of community. So I'm really focusing in on the common, on the community, on the communication, which is probably a part of relationships. But again, is the overall focus on the relationship, or is the overall focus on community? Is the overall focus on what we have in common? So I'm just kind of tilting it a bit. Now, some things that come to mind for me, and some of what I'm thinking is perhaps in our oversimplification, we've just kind of made it into a Hallmark card. You know, and I don't know about you, but when I look on Facebook, I see things like this. Oh, be the person that makes others feel special. Be known for your kindness and grace. Now, maybe that stands out for me because I have a really difficult time with that. I'm probably not known for my kindness and grace. I'm known more for my assertiveness, you know, and really sticking up for other people and sticking up for myself. It's not a kindness and grace piece. And then, of course, then there are people who say, well, after all of this is over, all that will really have mattered is how we treated each other. That one, probably so. Probably so, how we treated each other. Were we still remaining in each other's world? But then, if a friendship lasts longer than 7 years, you're no longer just friends. You are family. So again, kind of Hallmarky. And then have we realized it yet that nobody is missing the material things? We all miss the company of others, great conversation, and a hug. I kind of look at it and I say, well, I'm having just as many conversations. They're not 3D, they're 2D, but I'm having just as many conversations really as I had before, and maybe more. And to tell you the truth, what am I missing? I'm missing going to movies. I'm missing shopping. You know, I'm missing, but again, some of those things we figured out how to do, even though we can't do it in a sense live. But then I think the other thing when we talk about relationships is to realize what we all bring to it. I just thought that this was funny, that there are at least 2 people in every relationship. So here's partner 1. Okay, I have our passports, our boarding passes, and car rental reservation. And partner 2 is saying, and where are we going again? You know, so who are the people who take care of what? What's your job? What's not your job? Yes, in the relationship. I know as someone who lost her husband, there are things that Tom used to take care of that I had to learn to take care of. You know, and he was an accountant. You know, it was really very good. He was the accountant banker. Guess what he took care of? You know, I was the assertive one. Guess what I took care of? You know, and there were those kinds of arrangements. So what is it that we take care of? And is that part of the relationship, the your job, my job? But on the other hand, here's some considerations. Here's what Dr. Glasser told us, and here's what I'm really wondering about. Dr. Glasser said in practice, the most important need is love and belonging as closeness and connections. And I think what we may be overlooking is that it's closeness and connections with the people we care about is a requisite for satisfying all of the needs. I think, again, in what might be considered an oversimplification, that we think it really goes for everybody. Some of it, I think, is really just courtesy. You know, some of it is you get more bees with honey, but some of it really is intended for the people we really care about, not the world. You know, how many of us are the people that I just don't want to have a relationship with? They're not going to help me get my needs met because I don't like them particularly. And Dr. Glasser also said being disconnected is the source of almost all human problems, such as what is called mental illness, drug addiction, violence, crime, school failure, and spousal abuse, and more, he says. And again, being disconnected, I would preface it with the people we really care about. I'm not sure he really meant the world in general. And I think for some people are saying it really is everybody. Now, he also said all long-lasting psychological problems are relationship problems. And I truly am wondering about that. Are there other problems? Now, maybe because it's psychological problems are relationship problems, you know, but could health be a psychological problem? Could finances be a psychological problem? Could a relationship be a psychological problem? And here's some more from Dr. Glasser. The necessity to have a good relationship with a responsible person in order to fulfill one's needs. There was more to that sentence, but that was the most important part of it. So a good relationship. And notice, isn't it interesting, with a responsible person? And as long as we insist on controlling people around us, we will create unnecessary suffering in our lives. That one I'll go right along with. And we are the happiest in relationships when we are able to satisfy our basic needs, we feel supported and loved, and we feel that the other person is not trying to control us. Notice he didn't say every other person, he's saying with that other person. Now, here's another perspective, though. When you continue to go on Facebook, the first rule of family gatherings, always bring your own vehicle so you can leave when you want. So it's not love and belonging necessarily, it could be freedom. And then I thought this was amusing. Finally, the fourth ape. He's the sum of the first three. He sees nobody, he hears nobody, and he speaks to nobody. Not recommending that in general. In life, it's important to know when to stop arguing with people and just simply let them be wrong. I love the fact that it's let them be wrong. And then I can really say this is one for me in general. I didn't write it though, but what Pooh tells us is sometimes my greatest accomplishment is just keeping my mouth shut. So I guess that could be, maybe today I should be keeping my mouth shut because I'm kind of, I'm juggling our belief system here. And then don't be scared to walk away from things, places, and people that leave your soul heavy. And not one that I'm recommending, but sometimes want to think about. When life gives you lemons, just freeze them and throw them as hard as possible at the people making your life difficult. Not sure that will help, but perhaps it's a thought. Now, going into Dr. Glasser's work and really going into choice theory, so some people on the line really know this well. If I really want to see us emphasize more of, if I'm getting my needs met, what's my quality world picture? What do I want? What do I really want? Do I really want this relationship? Do I really want to be happy? And will this relationship help me be happy? And notice when we talk about quality world, it's definitely the people we want most to be with, but it's also the things we want to own and experience. It's actually the ideas or systems of belief that govern most of our behavior. So it's more than just people. And again, I'm thinking perhaps we've oversimplified. And then here's the basic needs. So will the relationship help us with our survival need, with our love and belonging need, with our power need, with our freedom need, with our fun need? And what I'm posing is it possible to have our needs met? Probably not our love and belonging need, but then again, maybe without the person or people. So just to look at the needs. So safety and survival. What kind of relationships do we need to help us with food, air, water, air, conservation, shelter, health? Sometimes I think that really is what are the processes that are there, and are there, who are the people that are involved in there, and do we have relationships with them? There's love and belonging. And then power. Is it possible for us to have our power need met, to feel a sense of respect, importance, recognition, achievement, competence, without a relationship necessarily? I don't know if it's just me, but I know there are times where I've conquered something, I've learned something, and I'm all excited because I got it, and I feel a sense of achievement. But I may not have somebody to share that with. Might be nice, you know, when I would conquer something and be able to say, when my husband was here, be able to say to him, look, he kind of look at me like, yes, so, you know, so that may or may not have been particularly helpful, you know. And even when I was working, you know, I found this, and people would go, uh-huh. So it's my own self-evaluation of my own sense of competence, which may or may not be helped by a relationship. Then, of course, there's freedom. And I think freedom may be one of those needs which tends to get more and more compromised by the relationship. Do I give up some choices because of a person, or because it might be better for the relationship? Do I give up a sense of independence? Do I give up my autonomy? And then a sense of fun. are the relationships that are just more fun, that you can have a sense of celebration and enjoyment with. So I know it was a couple of weeks ago, I actually had the opportunity to do an online shopping with a shopper. They had called me from Chico's, because that's one of my shopping sprees. And they had called me and she said, would you want to come into the store and da da da. And I said, no. She said, well, do you want me to shop for you and we can do this online? I went, oh, that sounds interesting. Well, okay. So she went into my files. She found the kinds of things that I liked wearing. And bottom line, she shopped for me and I told her what colors I liked and what I didn't. And we had our appointment. And sure enough, there she was. And that was just a blast. Now, did I have a real relationship with her? She was my shopper and she was online with me. So it was a relationship, but I'll tell you, it really was the most fun I've had in the last several weeks. Now, Dr. Glasser explained to us 4 ways that we relate to each other. So one way is as a counselor, where we're really asking more questions and we're helping another person. One is as a lead manager, where we're really persuading someone to do something our way and explaining the why. It was interesting, Dave Betts at the Choice Theory Symposium a week ago, 2 weeks ago, he recommended that you get along and you get results. That's his preface for managers. And then again, sometimes our relationship is about teaching. So here's our teaching today. You're allowing me to share information with you. I think the most important piece of this is in our friending, which underlies all of it. Do the people we have relationships with, especially that one significant one, do they know who we are and what we stand for? Do they know what we will and won't do for them? Do we know what they will and won't do for us? Do they know that about us? So for instance, and some of us know that your job isn't, my job isn't. I think about it, and really my best friend in the area, she managed to get a COVID vaccine before me. And she was one of the people who had a connection with somebody who recommended, here's this site, go to this site, whatever. And by the time she got to me, of course, everything was gone. But what was really interesting was, in my mind, my perception was, oh God, I can't believe you didn't tell me right away. Why didn't you tell me who to call, like on your way to get your own vaccine? So she was like 3 weeks ahead of me. And I just thought, wait a minute, I would have done this for you. So we did have a kind of a messy sort of chat about that, which we can do because we are of besties, so to speak. But it really was my expectations that were different from hers. She just said, I'm working, I'm busy, I can't do that. I can't put you in the center. Well, geez, I would put you in the center. Anyway, then it had me thinking about the levels of relationships. Now, this is not Dr. Glasser, this is Stephen Kessler, who's a licensed psychotherapist and a certified emotional freedom technique expert. Don't you like that? I sort of like that. I think I want that title. And he's adapted the work of Terry Gorski. So he asks us, how do you even know if you're in a relationship? How is a relationship, a capital R relationship, different from all the other relationships of life? Capital R relationship versus a small r relationship. So he gives us 6 levels. He talks about one level as acquaintanceship. And these are the people we don't know very well. We just kind of bump into them. We meet them along the way to accomplish a task. They may be the clerk at the store. They may be the cab driver. They may be, whoever these people are that are helping us in whatever way as we're accomplishing a task. There's also companionship. So it could be someone we seek out to share an activity with them. The activity is more important than the person. Same with the acquaintanceship. It's the task, the activity that's more important. So I'm not a tennis player, but I know one of my friends is a good tennis player. And she'll play with companions. And it doesn't matter. It's the game. And when she's judging who she wants to play tennis with, it doesn't have anything to do with who the person is. It has to do with their skill at tennis. Then there are friendships. And now the priorities are getting reversed. Now it's the person is more important than the activity. And you're getting together to enjoy each other's company. So it's a relationship, but it's not a deep relationship. Now there's a committed friendship. Now time is entering, and there's an agreement to be available to each other in the future. So that's when I'm saying that I would have thought my friend was more committed and would have let me know that there was a vaccine in the area, here, call. In my mind, it was, you weren't available to me. I know you're there, but you're not available to me in this particular time. But then it goes even further and talks about a primary friendship. And now priority is added. This is your best friend, your most important committed friend. And you put this person first when you have to choose. Now, it may change over time. And you may have different best friends for different purposes, so to speak, but you're putting them first. Like, it was interesting when the incidents were happening on January 6th at the Capitol. There were any number of people who are committed friends and primary friends who were texting me going, are you seeing this? Just in case I wasn't. And because they knew what my political views were as well. Then here's the sixth one, your life partner. Now permanence is added. They are not just the most important person in your life, but they are promised to be in this position forever, for life. So just an interesting way of looking at the levels. So when we think about the relationships, perhaps it now gives us a way to dig a little more deeply into relationships. And what do we really expect and what do we know? Now, I guess my main gambit here is, I think maybe the connecting, disconnecting habits may be too simplified and kind of put us in this sort of a basket, or, what do we really know? Or, geez, what about this? And I think what may have happened is that what I was watching with people that I was working with is that once they got their hands on the habits, they forgot about the rest of choice theory. They just went to the habits. It was just on the to-do list. It was just something to do. And I think we may have oversimplified it to think about it that if you use the caring habits, it'll certainly help relationships. But yet, on the other hand, will it intensify the relationships? It just won't break the relationship, so to speak. Will it help you have better relationships? Will it help you? I'm not really sure. But I think it was, my metaphor for it was, it might be simple, but it might be learning, for instance, like I've learned how to dress so I can hide my being overweight. But yet, when I take the clothes off, I'm still overweight. When I don't wear the right clothes, I'm still overweight. So I'm just wondering whether the habits have been oversimplified and maybe we use them, but we're still not enjoying what we think about for a quality relationship. So here are the disconnecting habits. And again, I'm not recommending that we use them, but yet, on the other hand, are there some times where, I'm sorry, the service that I got for a particular effort wasn't up to snuff? So you know what? I will complain. I'll complain maybe in what Jim Mishler said to us on a quality school planning. He said, well, can we be professionally civil? Can I complain in a polite way? But yeah, I'm going to complain. I'm not going to negotiate the differences. I'm going to complain. I'm paying you for this. I didn't get this. On the other hand, here's the caring, connecting habits. And are there times where I'm not as respectful because maybe you haven't done what I'm asking you to do? So maybe it's about negotiating differences, but maybe it's not. But again, I think is this relationship important to you? And that's what Dr. Glesser said to us. Is this going to help us get closer together or further apart? And I guess what I'm posing is, are there some times where I'd rather be further apart? I really don't want to be closer together. So now, if we want to use the reality therapy question, and I'm using Dr. Wobbelding's methodology here for his radio station WDEP. So what do I really want? What do I want? What do I really want? Do I want this relationship? Do I want to be close to somebody? What have I been doing to get what I want? Do I use the caring habits? But on the other hand, what do I want? I want to be free. I want to be able to do whatever I want when I want to be able to do it. So what I've been doing to get what I want, not making many commitments with other people. Well, how effective has my chosen behavior been? Well, is it getting me what I want or not? And would I like to make another plan? Now, I actually work this out, so I try to put it into action for us. So what do I want? I want to be healthy, comfortable, and happy. So what am I doing about that? I do a workout 3 days a week. And I do shop online. And I pick up curbside, and I do pay my bills, and I do make sure my house is well maintained. And I do spend quality time with both my cats every day. The one of them just came up here, I'm deluding myself to think he came up here to be with me. He actually just went to hide in the closet. So how is it working? Well, you know what? I've still gained weight, and I'm pretty sure I'm not doing enough cardio activity, and I'm not watching my calorie intake. So I'm wondering if being comfortable is just enough to be content, but not enough to be really happy. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give being healthy a 6 right now for myself. I'm going to say being comfortable about an 8, and my being happy maybe at an 8. So what are my new plans? Well, you know what? I'm thinking now, maybe I'm going to contact my doctor's office to touch base with a dietitian and help me plan food intake that's more calorie conscious. And maybe I'm going to walk on those days I'm not working out. And maybe I'm going to be sure to do at least one more fun activity at least once per week, which may include another FaceTime shopping spree, another online museum tour event, or maybe I will take a course that I want to take. And I'm going to plan dinner with other friends for the 2 weeks after they had and I've had our second COVID vaccine. So that's already in the works. Yes, second COVID vaccine is March 15th, March 29th, dinner with other COVID vaccinated people, or at least a person. So there we go. Some other questions to consider. What about relationships? Relationships change as situations and circumstances change. And how many of us have walked or run away from a relationship that was not need satisfying and or was out and out just hurtful and harmful? I know there was a woman who, when my husband became ill, and she was a principal where I had taught, and she and I were not very close then, but we had some things in common. And when I moved with my husband, so he would be in better shape in the house that we were then living in, she contacted me, first of all, to check on him because she had heard, and then to say, well, maybe we should go to a movie or something together. So, all right. So every now and again, I would go to a movie with her, and she would email me and she would call and so on. Well, then what happened with her was, and I didn't realize this was a long-standing piece, she had gotten herself into like this gambling thing going on online. She was the one who actually did give money to the prince, and she was the one who had the UPS driver who was going to come and, bring her this great deal and give her a car and she was like giving money away. So there was a day that she called me and said, Sue, I really need you to go to the bank for me. Lynn, I'm just not doing this. And there was a point where, okay, here's the last thing I'm doing. And then I searched out a counselor for her to help her with gambling addiction. And lo and behold, now we're at the point where I have just not touched base with her. She will touch base with me, and I've just literally taken her out of the quality world. Every now and again, I check with somebody else who I know is still in contact with her, but And I'm wondering, if you're a high love and belonging person, can you be tolerant of people in your world who just you don't want to hang out with or talk to all the time? And gee, what would we be thinking, feeling, doing differently if Dr. Glasser had identified fun, freedom, or power as the most important need? So that's my last question of the day for you. So I have enough of a love and belonging need that I hope I'm not ostracized from everybody's quality world picture, and that I'm not reported to the Institute and my at-large board membership is taken away. But anyway, that's what I have for you, and I hope that it was useful.
Well, it was very useful, and it was very thought-provoking. And I think back to, I worked with the prison system for years, teaching them relationship habit, well, life skills. And there was this one guy in particular that just vowed and declared he did not need anyone. And again and again and again, he said, I don't need anybody, don't need anybody. And I told him, I said, yes, you do. If nothing else, you need an audience.
Yeah.
You need an audience.
That's good. Yeah.
Whether that
Yeah.
audience was bucking against him or whether that audience was agreeing with and clapping and, all that agreeing it, but he needed an audience. And
Yeah.
Eventually he made a little acknowledgement of that. But that has also been one of my quests, is to expand relationship.
Yeah.
Because everything affects everything we do. And sometimes it's we do need those relationships from the few to even to the many, because someone somewhere is making something for us that we could not get or obtain otherwise just on our own. But then also, whether it is in business or whether it is in family, if we have a tendency to be attracted to each other, but then we attack each other. Whenever what we are attracted to is because there's a sameness there. There's something about, like, maybe one is really thrifty, whereas the other has a lot of good, they may be a spendthrift. And, you were attracted to those character qualities, whether it was a friendship or a love relationship. But then, because it's so different from what you are, it becomes that issue of not being a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Until we delve into it and appreciate where the other person is coming from and help them appreciate where we are coming from.
Yeah.
But this was.
Yeah. Well, I guess my challenge is that, and when I'm talking about the simplification, somehow or other, I think when we got into the habits, when we got into the caring habits, we just sort of, that for some people, they lost perspective, that it wasn't, we were no longer identifying what kind of relationship we wanted, and how that relationship would be needs satisfying. We were just looking at, instead of looking at the being, we were looking at the doing. If I do these caring if I do these caring habits, I'll have relationships. But not necessarily, and I was watching people, and some people are just nicer, so it's easier for them to do that, and maybe it's my own excuse doing, because I can very easily not be nice. I can very easily, the caring habit, I can look at the deadly habits and go, yeah, right, I didn't quite do that today, but, so, but I think I really liked when I found the levels of relationships. That was helpful to me.
Yes, that was beautiful. I really like that. I'd like to have a copy of that.
Sure.
And then in being responsible, in all the quotes that you were getting from Dr. Glasser, there is definitely truth in every one of those. It's that whenever we can take anything to extreme. We can either make it where it's non-negotiable, or we could make it that it's so negotiable you never get anything done. And in being responsible, I know I'm working with a couple now that one is so responsible that they're just smothering the life out of the other one. And so, it's learning to have all those things in a healthy balance for you as well as for those that we are influencing, because we're always influencing others.
Right.
And
well, I guess it's also the issue of how the relationship changes. And Sharon and I were talking about that yesterday, like how the relationship changes. In other words, my husband and I both had very high freedom needs, and that, in a sense, that's what the relationship was built on. It's like, okay, we were certainly there for each other, but we didn't smother each other in any way. And it's like, here was my job, here was his job, okay, and we kind of share back and forth. But the high freedom needs outweighed the love and belonging needs, so to speak. But then as he became ill with ALS, he became much more needy, which was not who he was. And I certainly was not caretaker per se. but it was really interesting because there would be a point where we got help in the house, but there would be a point where he would be so dependent on me, like in certain aids he liked better than others. And when an aide would be in the house, when he was still able to text, if I would go out, he would text me and say, "Where are you?
Yeah.
When are you going? When are you coming home?"
So it was that caring.
But Sue,
No, it was
that was the illness.
that was
I mean,
survival. No, that
he
was
was-
survival.
Okay.
Yeah, he bumped down into survival.
Yeah.
Where before it had escalated to that point, there was a time where I would say to him, "Would you just have your cell phone on you so that I know?" Because he was when he was still mobile enough that he could go to the bathroom on his own and whatever. And he wouldn't have the phone, and then he was going to use the landline, but he couldn't get to the landline in time because he was using the walker. Well, for heaven's sakes, there was a point where I couldn't get him, and it was like, oh, he's just not having the cell phone. And literally, I came home and he was on the floor in the bathroom. He had fallen.
Right. Yeah.
And it's kind of like,
Thank you so much. It was very insightful. And we're going to go ahead and close out the recorded part. And those of you that are here, you're welcome to join for some more conversation. One of the things that you were talking about there, that we do have all of these needs. And one of the things that Dr. Glasser says is that, ask the question is, whose behavior can you control? And it comes back to us. The weight is always on us, that we can only control our behavior and how we are helping others or how we are influencing them. That would be for the positive and that would make life more happy. And if we do have those others needs that definitely are higher than the love and belonging need, like the power or the accomplishment or the fun, that as we know who we are, and then in that love and belonging, coming where I'm coming from, that goes from all of the genes that came together to cause us to be us. It goes on, then it goes all the way up to the divine. And as we can, maybe we can't brag to someone else about our accomplishment, but we can have that satisfaction within our heart that, someone knows about it. Someone knows about it. So thank you for being here, and I wish you a pleasant day and good mental health. Blessings.